Why hello there, and welcome back to Character the Making. A while back, I put up a poll asking which classic World of Darkness games you wanted to see, and apparently y'all want to see Hunter the Reckoning, a game that is something of an interesting departure from the rest of the World of Darkness titles, which tend to focus largely on the humanity of the monsters and angsty brooding. Whereas this one puts you in a very anti-monster role as a monster hunter. But there is still plenty of angsty brooding. And basically the mythos here is that hunters are normal everyday people who have had the veil lifted, so to speak, and been made aware of the existence of monsters. You know, the werewolves, the vampires, the stuff from the other books. As well as being imbued with powers that allow them to fight back against the World of Darkness. Now, the exact nature of all this is a thing that they are uncharacteristically ambiguous about for a World of Darkness game, and, you know, that doesn't mean that there aren't 60 pages of lore, just that these 60 pages of lore focus on the activities and angsty brooding of the hunters rather than their origins. And with that out of the way, let's make us a Hunter the Reckoning character. As is usually the case with these games, the first step in character creation is concept, and characters here are generally those who have been recently imbued, and then the circumstances of their imbuement along with their life beforehand are the main things that influence the character. So, let's say that our character was a paramedic who was imbued when they followed some mysterious disembodied voices that led them to a scene of a somewhat bestial person fighting off what seemed to be a handful of shambling corpses. And then being overcome with the need to help out this clearly desperate person, they went and helped fight off the zombies, and then tended to the were-wounds, because mercy does not necessarily exclude monsters. Like, that's the kind of character that we're making here. And that is generally how the imbuement is described: disembodied voices or writings from some unknown source directing a character towards the discovery that monsters walk among us. And then we need to select our character's creed. There are 7 creeds divided between 3 virtues, and these are basically how a hunter carries out their mission, and also how their powers manifest, in addition to being abstractly the character class for this game. In the virtue of mercy, innocence. The curious, unabashed, and wide-eyed, the innocent accepts monsters on their own terms and seeks simple resolution between creatures and humanity. Martyrdom. Acting out of desperate passion, martyrs put themselves in harm's way to protect others or to alleviate some all-consuming guilt. And redemption. Piercing the souls of the enemy, redeemers offer the hand of salvation to the deserving and strike down the irredeemable. Then, in the virtue of vision, visionary. Introspective, questioning, and doubtful, visionaries seek the ultimate goals of the war against the unknown, and they seek purpose for hunters as a whole. There's only one in that particular virtue, so on to zeal, which has defense. Protectors and defenders who seek to salvage or preserve what they can in a war against the unknown, perhaps to prove that the fight is worthwhile. Judgment. The eyes and ears of the battle against monsters. Judges seek to uphold the greater good, whether it means destroying creatures or sparing them, and questioning the other hunter's motives. And vengeance. Holy terror personified. Avengers accept only one end to the war: the destruction of the enemy. And based on our character's background, it seems like our best options are going to be innocence, redemption, and judgment, and let's go with redemption. Next we have our character's nature, which is their true nature, and demeanor, which is how they act, and is another standard part of World of Darkness character creation. And for our character's nature, I think caregiver seems appropriate, and allows us to regain willpower when aiding someone who truly needs it. And then for demeanor, let's go with conformist. So we have a character who plays along, they support the plans of the group, for the sake of cohesion, until such time as those plans conflict with our inherent caring nature. And now on to step 2, attributes. We have 9 attributes, all of which start at 1 and are separated into 3 categories that we must prioritize. So let's go with mental, physical, and social, getting 6, 4, and 3 points respectively to add to the attributes. And notable thing here is that in the other World of Darkness games, you get 7, 5, and 3 points. So Imbued get 2 fewer attribute points to reflect their status as weak, squishy humans in a World of Darkness. So let's go ahead and put 2 points each in Perception, Intelligence, and Wits, 2 in Dexterity, 1 in Strength and Stamina, and 1 each in Charisma, Manipulation, and Appearance. So now on to step 3, abilities. And these also come in 3 categories that we must prioritize. And for those, let's go with knowledges, talents, and skills, getting 11, 7, and 4 points respectively to add to them up to a maximum of 3. And once again, that is a bit lower than the standard 13, 9, and 5 that most other World of Darkness characters get, or the 20, 15, and 10 points that the original mummies got. So let's put 3 points into Investigation, Medicine, and Research, then 1 point into Computers and Occult, 3 in Streetwise, and 2 in Awareness and Dodge, then 2 in Drive, and 1 each in Firearms and Stealth. Then on to step 4, Advantages. First, we have backgrounds and are given 5 points for those, so let's just go ahead and put 3 in Destiny, which means we have a very important destiny, but also that we get to re-roll 3 times per game session. And then let's just put our last 2 points into Exposure, which means that we have seen some weird stuff, like we have some exposure to the supernatural before the imbuement, which now makes more sense since we know about the monsters. Then we have 3 points to spend on our virtues, and whatever virtue is associated with our creed is our primary virtue, which no other virtue can exceed. So let's put 2 points into Mercy, which is our primary virtue, and 1 into Zeal. Then we have Edges, which are our special powers and are in 7 paths, 1 for each creed, each of which has 5 powers. And like virtues, no other path can exceed our level in our main path. And we acquire edges by spending virtue points at the cost of 1 point per level of the power. So a level 1 power costs 1 point and a level 2 power costs 2 points. But you must buy the lower level powers first, so 3 points total for those 2 powers. However, we cannot take a level 2 power right now, because the virtue points are tied to a specific virtue. So rather than 3 virtue points, we actually have 2 mercy points and 1 zeal point. So let's go ahead and take Bluster, which is the level 1 redemption path power, and lets us roll wits plus mercy to attempt to deflect any direct and deliberate attack. And I mean any attack. The book specifies this includes magic and someone trying to run you over in a car. And then with our 1 zeal point, we will take the Judgment Path first level power, Discern, which allows us to roll zeal plus perception to gain the ability to perceive supernatural creatures and be immune to any kind of blindness for 10 minutes. And there's quite a bit more to this, but it relates to another ability that I haven't gotten to yet, so I will come back to it then. And we have 1 mercy point left, which we could spend on a level 1 power from the Innocence or Martyrdom paths. But we are not going to do that because doing so would permanently lock us out of the level 4 Redemption Path power. Basically, the way this all works is that each virtue maxes out at 10, so hypothetically you can have a maximum of 10 of each type of virtue point. And acquiring a level 4 edge costs 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10 virtue points. So if you want the option of being able to take a level 4 power ever, you cannot take any powers from any other path in that virtue. Of course, the Vision virtue only has the Visionary path, so if you are very indecisive, I would recommend building your character around that. Also, you may have noticed from the maths here, but That also means that you cannot get the level 5 power from any path, because you will never have 15 points in any virtue. And yes, I know there are other ways to acquire these powers, but as part of the core rules, they are unobtainable, and the book even says as much, and in a way that kind of suggests they hadn't figured it out yet. But now on to step 5, last touches. We start with 3 conviction points, which is set by our creed. All of the creeds start with either 3 or 4 points, and we get 3 willpower, which is just what all characters get. Then we have 21 freebie points, which we can spend on various things at various costs, and this time we actually get more points than the 15 that vampires, werewolves, fairies, and mages get, but still less than the 30 that they gave mummies. Mummies got a lot of points. So let's spend 5 points each for 1 point in perception, wits, and manipulation, because the 2 powers we have and the next one we are in line to get use those attributes. And then let's spend 2 points each for 1 in alertness, brawl, and intuition. And this character is done, which means it's time for me to talk about the unique mechanics for this particular World of Darkness game, because that's how I do in these videos. Although, it does occur to me that I haven't really been mentioning how the base mechanics work, so I'm actually going to do that now too. Let's say that one of our hunter allies has taken some lethal damage from, I don't know, a chupacabra, and is bleeding out. To administer medical aid, we would roll a number of d10s equal to our intelligence, 3, plus medicine, also 3, against a difficulty of 6. So each die that comes up equal to 6 or higher is a success. And then if we succeed, we have stopped the bleeding, and if we got enough successes, maybe even heal some of the damage. But now on to the important thing to discuss here in Hunter the Reckoning, which is the conviction points. And yeah, all of the games have some kind of points, and they all function just a little bit differently. Conviction points can be spent to activate certain edges, like many of the other points can in the other games. But the most notable use of conviction is spending 1 point to activate your character's second sight, which allows you to see monsters as, quote, not human or not living in some way. And this is a thing because a big part of every other World of Darkness game is coming up with some reason why people either do not or cannot perceive of the various Draculas, Wolfmans, and Wizards, so this game needed to come up with some way to negate that. And spending a point on this also grants immunity to supernatural fear effects and mind control and that sort of thing, because they also gave the other creatures a lot of abilities to control humans, and once again, that is something they had to negate to make this game work. However, this is where we come back to Discern, which, in addition to negating any kind of blindness, also imparts the effects of Second Sight, minus the immunities, but without having to spend a conviction point. And then if used in conjunction with Second Sight, and spending that point, it enhances the ability and actually allows you to identify the specific type of supernatural creature you're dealing with. With the base Second Sight, you can just tell that people are off, not exactly how. And there is one more way to spend conviction, and that is basically gambling it on an edge-related roll once per scene. So, for example, another use of Discern allows you to determine the culprit of recent paranormal activities. So, let's say that we found a mangled corpse. We could activate Discern, rolling 4 dice for perception and 1 for zeal, but we can also risk conviction points on that attempt. So, let's risk 2 points for 2 additional dice, and because we got 2 or more successes, we have successfully identified this as the aftermath of a zombie attack. But also, we do not lose the risk conviction and actually gain 1 additional point. If the roll had failed, we also would have lost all the risk conviction. Conviction can also be gained as rewards for role-playing and cleverness and such, but the main way seems to be the wagering. And here's the important part. If you manage to get 10 conviction, they can be cashed in to increase one of your virtues by 1, which of course also earns you more virtue points for your edges. So earning conviction points is a thing you very much want to do, and spending them is something you might want to avoid. And I guess That was a Hunter the Reckoning character. Kinda more of the same. That's the thing with World of Darkness games, they are all very similar, but also different enough that you can't really going into one just assuming that any part of it is going to be just like another one. And honestly, compared to the previous 5 I've covered, this one does feel kinda bland. Like, they took the idea of being a plain ordinary human fighting against the darkness a little too literally. But as with all of the World of Darkness titles, it's fine for what it is. These games have a very specific style to them, and this definitely adheres to that style. Also, I gotta say, I would be more than a little surprised if this game had nothing to do with the creation of Supernatural. There are pretty strong parallels. But that's it for this video, and thank you for watching, with extra special thanks to my Fightin' Flail Snails, Randy Mulholland, and Toshirokuro. If you'd like to be cool like them, you can check out my Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and fun stuff that I make for the Patreon. But if you don't want to do that, that's cool too. You can still hit all the lovely buttons, like, subscribe, these other videos floating around on screen. There are, as of the recording of this one, at least 5 more on the World of Darkness, so if you like World of Darkness, you can check out those videos. And I will see you next time.